Hello, and welcome back to the Nostalgic Futurist podcast. We're going to be taking a deep dive into two of my absolute favorite books about Disneyland, Mouse Tales and More Mouse Tales by David Koenig. These books detailed information that even me, the biggest Disneyland fan, had no idea about. Of course, most of us have watched the top 10 secrets of Disneyland and learned about, there was, a real skull on the Pirates of the Caribbean, or on opening day, people were forging tickets to get into the park. But we're going to be talking about the top 10 things you didn't know, chapter by chapter, that surprise even the biggest Disney fans. Get ready to learn things that you never even knew happened in Disneyland, and you might be shocked by some of this information. A quick dive into who David Koenig is. He grew up in the 1960s in Orange County and attributes his deep love for the illusion versus reality of Disneyland to writing Adventures Through Inner Space and realizing that the mighty microscope was indeed not actually shrinking people, yet you still feel like it does. He went to Cal State Fullerton as a journalism major, and he had many, many friends who were cast members over the years. And he was fascinated by their love and hate for the company that they worked for. This book was not overseen by Disney. It is one of the few accounts of things that have happened in Disney that's unfettered and is just what really happened. No magic to hide behind, no mouse looking over your shoulder. These are the real tales. He interviewed 200 plus employees, friends. He used employee directories to find people, old phone books, anything he could to try to talk to past cast members and current cast members if they were willing to try and talk to him and not lose their jobs. He went to Disneyland many, many times in the research of these books. Libraries, private collections, the courthouse to look up Disney lawsuits, everything. So let's begin with our top 10 things that you did not know about building Disneyland. Building errors. This was a big project of learn by doing. Disneyland was built by a bunch of people who weren't necessarily always certified in what they did for a job. A lot of the designers on Disneyland were Walt's animators. So when they were building Disneyland, we've often heard about the sample brick wall that's on Main Street. If you go down Main Street and turn to the right, there is a wall where they were testing. Did they want all the bricks to line up and look nice and flat and straight? Or did they want a little bit more of a wonky brick look? And because they didn't have time to take it out, that wall still sits there. But here's a few other things that happened that you may not know about. When they were bulldozing trees, they color-coded them with tags, but the bulldozer operator was colorblind and he just started bulldozing everything, which of course caused setbacks. When they went to put water into the rivers of America, it just drained itself because it went right down through the soil. So then they had to go and line it with clay and then refill the rivers of America. There are a lot of times that the rivers of America and the Jungle Cruise River have proven to be more difficult than they originally thought they would be. Stay tuned, there will be more about this. Innovation to meet deadlines. When they were trying to fill the park with plants, Walt realized that even though they had taken every plant they could find from every nursery from San Diego all the way up the coast to Santa Barbara, he still needed more plants. They took plants from the freeway clearing project because the Santa Ana freeway was being built at the time, and they were like, give us all your brush, give us everything. But when they still had free areas of dirt that had no plants in them, Walt had people go into the parking lot, pull out weeds, and put them in the park. And he even added little signs that give them very interesting horticulture names so that people would believe that those plants were extra special. Anaheim had to obey the magic. Now, we all know that Disneyland and Anaheim have had their issues, most notably about the hotel that was supposed to be built on one side of downtown Disney, and that did not happen. Goodbye, Rainforest Cafe. Hello, Star Wars Trading Post. But when they were building Disneyland, Disney had a little bit more pull over Anaheim than they might have today. Now, when they were building Disneyland and they had put up the berm, they made Anaheim agree that they would not have any high-rises built anywhere where Disneyland could see a high-rise from inside the park. Early Tomorrowland corporate sponsored attractions. Now, we all know Tomorrowland was the last thing in Disneyland to be built, and as usual, it is the last thing that is taken care of. Now, when Walt was building it, he had some great rides that were going in, that were innovative, that were smart, but he had a lot of empty space still. So he offered to have corporate-sponsored exhibits of sorts for people to go and walk through just to fill the space. We know a lot of the common ones, like the Hall of Chemistry by Monsanto and Kaiser's Hall of Aluminum. But did you know that there was a Bathroom of Tomorrow exhibit? You could go and see what might be appearing in your bathroom in the future. There was also a Dairy Association dairy bar. You could go see the Color Gallery, the Flight Circle, or Richfield Oil's World Beneath Us, so that you can learn all about energy. Sounds fun, right, kids? Additions. Now, as we just talked about, Tomorrowland did not get underway until 6 months after the project of Disneyland had been started. Walt then decided, 2 weeks before they were going to open the park, that they should have a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea exhibit. But when they had filmed the movie, they didn't keep all the props and everything, so they had to go and try to find them or recreate things like the squid that they had destroyed during the making of the movie. Walt also wanted to have the drawbridge be operational, which had not previously been done, and so they had to rush to make that possible. Opening day was worse than just the asphalt. We all know about the asphalt that wasn't dried on Black Sunday, the day Disneyland opened, and women's heels fell into the asphalt. We also know that there were no drinking fountains because Walt had to pick during the plumber strike between toilets or drinking fountains, and then was later accused of trying to push Coca-Cola. That day was extremely hot. There were guests who had to run to first aid for a drink of water because they were overheating. When they introduced Frontierland, they had the actor who played Davy Crockett come on screen on a horse, except he did it before they had a chance to introduce him because his cue was misdone, which is only one of the few things that they messed up TV-wise that day. At one point during the broadcast, Art Linkletter tried to cue Bob Cummings, and Bob didn't know where his microphone was. And so he ran around frantically in front of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride looking for his microphone, while Art Linkletter chose to narrate it. Low attendance. Now, when the park actually hit its first winter, suddenly, the park wasn't as full as it had been on opening day. And while it was still considered somewhat of a success, Disney was very, very worried that they weren't going to make it through the winter of the first year. Were they going to make it through their second? Because it wasn't the popular attraction it is today. It was even said that all of the employees had week-to-week contracts because they just did not know that the park was going to be able to promise people money beyond a week at a time. Many cast members were laid off and they had to pull back the hours, especially in the wintertime of Disneyland. In fact, that's the reason why for years Disneyland was not open on Mondays and Tuesdays, so that they wouldn't have to staff the park on days that they had extremely low attendance. Cast member devotion to making it work. Cast members have always been the heroes of Disneyland. They're the ones who are going to make your day extra special if you lose a shoe or, you're just having a bad day and that cast member just happened to notice and they've done something magical to make it even better. Back in the early years of Disneyland, cast members were just as wonderful. They went through anything and everything they could to make it work. It was said that back in those first few years that people worked months, even a whole year without taking a whole day off. It's the 50s. You can get away with this stuff. Couldn't do it today. They said that when they were backstage, no one was walking. Everyone ran everywhere because there was something to do at all times to make sure that the park worked, the guests had a great time, and that Disneyland was going to be a success. The circus. I don't know how many people actually know that Disneyland once had a circus and that it had two. What a weird idea. But Walt insisted that he wanted to try having a circus at Disneyland. I guess he thought that since he had improved the amusement park, he could improve the circus. So when he was told that he was not allowed to do a circus, Walt got creative. He decided to make a film that takes place in a circus so that he would have all the props from the movies and would say, well, now I have all the props, so I guess I have to put them somewhere. We'll just store them at Disneyland. And thus, the Mickey Mouse Club Circus, it came into existence on Thanksgiving in 1955. And it didn't do well. The problem with circuses is they are, well, circuses, you know? Crazy things happen. It was said that there was a panther that grabbed the paw of a tiger in the cage next to it and bit that off. And there was a performance artist who, while she was hanging in the air during a trapeze act, her top broke and fell down, and, well, she had to choose between covering herself and falling. So we know what she chose. There was a problem with temperamental animals and people acting like they would at a normal circus, with gambling and drinking and foul language. It was just everything Disneyland did not stand for. So it closed. In the 1980s, Michael Eisner decided that he wanted to have a big circus on Main Street, like Walt. But, you know, some ideas die hard. So, yet again, the circus failed, but in, I guess, a more graceful way. Renovation. Now, Walt famously said that Disneyland will never be finished, and even in the first few years and months of the park's existence, it wasn't finished, and he was determined to keep making it better, or as Walt called it, plussing the park. Now, we're going to be skipping through a majority of time here to talk about some renovation. Now, many people know about the Monsanto's House of the Future. It sat right outside the entrance to Tomorrowland, and it was a house completely made out of plastic, and it let you see things that were new, like a microwave in your house. But when they went to go tear it down, it proved to be more sturdy and permanent than they had expected. When they went to go hit it with a wrecking ball, it just simply bounced off the side of the plastic building. Hilarious. When they went to go add the Swiss Family Treehouse to Adventureland, which is now Tarzan's treehouse, Walt was upset because it was too small. He expected a much more grandiose tree, and he very angrily said, "Tear it down. I asked for a tree, you gave me a bush." This delayed the grand opening of the tree. Walt loved his park, though. He was there all the time, and while many of us today look at the lamp in the firehouse window and go, Walt's here today, for cast members and construction crews back when he was alive, it could mean disaster for the day. Many of the first employees in the morning would find notes with instructions from Walt, or even himself walking around giving people instructions on things he'd like to fix or change, or maybe something that you could have been doing differently. We're going to hit the 80s again for this one. I don't even have to say it. It's probably pretty obvious. In the mid-80s, they decided that they were going to be doing a big giveaway to mark the 30th anniversary of Disneyland. And during this, every 30th guest who entered the park was given a gift. It could be anything from a tiny souvenir to like a big thing like winning a car. And obviously, you can see why many Disneyland people would be like, I don't want to do a big giveaway at the gate. It feels like, like a sports game, or, you're going to like a casino. It doesn't feel like Disneyland. And so even though it was very popular and it did very well, it was eventually taken away. And so that wraps up Chapter 1 of Mouse Tales with top 10 things that you didn't know about the building and renovating of Disneyland. I will see you in 2 weeks for episode 2 when we talk about the secrets of Disneyland. Hi, did you like this video? Well, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe. I'm looking to really expand my fan base, well, Disneyland's fan base, and really get my information out to more and more people. And if you'd like to help me on that journey, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for listening.